Hey everybody, my name is Dave Jackson and this is Tales from the Backlog, a video games podcast where I bring in guests to talk about the games that I've played recently. Today's episode is another entry in the Lazy Sunday series where we discuss smaller indie games that can be completed in 5 hours or less. My guest today is a friend of the show and newly typecasted walking sim enthusiast, Jake Anderson. Hey Jake.
Hello.
Good to have you back.
Hey, it's good to be back. And yeah, I am getting typecasted as the walking sim enthusiast, but this is the only other one I've ever played, so it can only go on so long.
Okay, so the wells run dry after this one. We're going to have to get a different genre going.
Yep.
For those listening, if you haven't listened, Jake was a guest on the Firewatch episode that we did, a few episodes ago now. I'm not sure entirely what order these are going to be released, but the Firewatch episode was also featuring Jake, so go check that one out if you have not. But today, we'll be talking about Gone Home, which is a first-person walking sim, maybe one of the OG walking sims, and I think it was the game that kind of inspired the name for the genre. But the game was developed and published by the Fulbright Company in 2013, with console ports basically everywhere that you can play video games in the years since, including a Switch port, which was published by Bitworks in 2018. But before we get into Gone Home, Jake, it's been a couple weeks since we chatted, so what have you been playing, other than playing Gone Home again?
Yes, I did play through it again just this week, so it'd be fresh in my mind. Besides that, I've basically been playing the same thing since the last time we talked. It's only been a couple weeks, and I mentioned that I was playing Baldur's Gate on Switch, and those games are gigantic. So that is still what I have been playing. And again, just really enjoying it. I just got to the titular Baldur's Gate itself in the first game. So I'm progressing through that one, and then I'll do the little kind of expansion that Beamdog actually made, the new one, Dragon Spear or something like that, Siege of Dragon Spear, I think. And then I will go from that into Baldur's Gate 2, which is probably longer than both of those combined twice over. So I'll be playing this for a long time, as long as I don't bounce off of it at some point.
Cool. Well, I mean, I've heard that, like, in those games, the beginning of Baldur's Gate 1 is the hardest part because you don't have your skills up very high. You're probably losing a bunch of dice rolls and you're just, fighting rats and stuff like that. So if you made it past that, you might be good.
Yeah, it's based on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so way back in the day, and starting at level 1 is pretty painful, because you only attack like once every 6 seconds, and you miss, and then you wait 6 seconds.
Ooh.
And then you miss, and then you... It's pretty slow going at first.
That's pretty rough.
But I'm at a point now where I've got good gear, I've got more attacks per round. My spellcasters have enough spell slots that they don't shoot one thing and they're done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going much, much quicker now.
That was something that always bothered me about those old D&D systems is how spells work. Because I feel like I want to go through the game and like shoot my spells and have fun as a wizard, but if you do that too much, you'll be out of spells really quickly, and then you're like, well, what do I do now? Like, that's how I played Planescape Torment, was as a wizard or sorcerer or whatever they call it. And I felt like it was heavily discouraging me from using magic until, like, boss fights, basically, unless I want to go rest all the time.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of start addressing that in Baldur's Gate. Like, I'm at the point now, again, they don't have that many actual spell slots, but each of them have like 2 or 3 different wands that have 30 or 40 charges of a spell, so they can just use the wands continuously and then use their spell slots for big things. But I mean, that's not how it usually works in tabletop. They just kind of they knew it was going to be a problem and addressed it in that way.
Right. So let me ask you a question about, because I've never played Baldur's Gate, and I'm really interested in playing, but I really don't like real time with pause. I actually hate it a lot. And the only reason I was able to finish Planescape Torment is because that game's pretty easy if you put it on easy mode. So Is there a way for someone like me to get through those games on easy mode with like a kind of a class or something that makes that combat as painless as possible, or is it going to be tough?
No, the especially the enhanced editions, they have ways to work around it. One nice thing is a lot of the classes got kind of better kits, which are kind of like subclasses of the classes in Baldur's Gate 2, and those were all brought back so you could play with those from the beginning. And the Paladin subclasses in particular are really powerful and really good, and can make some of the more painful things to deal with not even matter, such as level drain. There are bad guys that can take away your levels.
Oh, Jesus.
And some of the Paladin subclasses are just immune to that, so you don't even have to worry about it. And then they also actually, besides having an easy mode, which does make it easier, there's a story mode, which makes it so you can't die. You heal over time automatically. Your strength is set really high because that also affects your chance to hit with melee, so you're less likely to miss. And if you're just wanting to experience it for the story, throw it on story mode. I've done that for a few fights here and there where I'm like, I really don't feel like going around and, grinding or something and coming back. I'm like, I just want to deal with this and be past it.
Yep.
And I just throw it on story mode, do the fight, and then switch it back. Mainly been playing on easy because, I'm not in this for the tactical combat, which people that want that, it's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to enjoy the experience.
Yeah, exactly. I that would be me 100% also. And I'm glad that they embraced the fact that, like, hey, this combat system is, even by real time with pause standards, this is super old and like people may not really enjoy it. So let's put in story mode so people can experience the story, which is really what people are playing Baldur's Gate for, is the story and role playing and characters and stuff, right? So it's good that they are embracing that.
Yeah, and I forget which one they did it in first, because they didn't have story mode at first. And then they did it with one of the enhanced editions they did, and eventually brought it into every one of the games they had done. I can't remember which one they did first, though, but it wasn't something they had originally. It's something they realized exactly, like, hey, some people just want to experience the story and not mess with getting deep into tactics and pausing every 2 seconds. And so they threw that in there. And I just want to say again, playing it on Switch is awesome. I love it. And there's kind of little things that make it even better on Switch, because you have a mode where you just directly control your character with the analog stick instead of point and click. Mm-hmm. You can switch between the two modes. But when you put it in direct control mode, your entire party automatically follows you. And that means they automatically move at your speed. So if you get something that doubles your movement speed, you can just sprint around. And even though the rest of your party doesn't have that item, they have to keep up. And so they do anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. You don't have to wait.
So it makes it really quick to just jam through the maps. Yeah. Which wasn't the case originally, because it was point and click and they all moved on their own. And, you'd have one character with a speed boost and they'd get across the map and wait and wait and wait. But in follow mode, they keep up. And it's been really nice.
That's really cool. Yeah. Nothing worse than like trying to get across the map and waiting for your party to catch up, or waiting for them to pathfind around objects or something.
You have a barbarian or a monk that has higher move speed, or they have haste cast on them, or they have boots that increase speed, and then, everyone else is way back there.
Yeah, well, that's good. Seems like they thought of a lot of quality of life things for those enhanced editions. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how great it is on Switch, because you would have told me originally, I was like, no, there's no way this could ever be on anything except a computer with a mouse and keyboard. And they pulled it off really well.
Yeah, the Planescape Torment one was really good on Switch, other than some like little graphical glitches. Other than that, it was a great experience to play on Switch. So I'm glad that people have kind of figured out how to get those CRPGs on consoles. Like the Divinity Original Sin games work great on consoles. They're putting the Shadowrun games on Switch soon. Like I'm excited. I'm glad they're figuring that out, how to get the UI and stuff going, or the UX.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. As for me, I've been playing a couple games that will make an appearance on this show later. I've been playing the Disco Elysium Switch port, which is another CRPG on Switch, and that is fantastic, other than some long load times. But, if you play a lot of games on Switch, you're used to longer load times. So that's been really good, and I've been playing and streaming Bloodborne, making sure that I stream my whole playthrough this time. And it's my first time doing any kind of extensive streaming like that, and that's been a good time. And I get to play Bloodborne again. Hell yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with ever playing Bloodborne again. I love that game.
It's really cementing itself as like one of my favorite games ever on this replay. It was already up there, but like going back through when I already know how everything works, I don't feel like the game has lost anything by me like not being fooled by its tricks or not really having a ton of trouble with any bosses so far. It doesn't take anything away from the experience.
No, it's so atmospheric that it holds up for repeated playthroughs extremely well.
Yeah, and it's been great. We're recording this kind of in late October, and it's been great because I don't want to play like a bunch of real horror games in October, and the Bloodborne atmosphere is just perfect for people like me.
Absolutely.
So what do you say we get into Gone Home?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to start with our kind of histories with the game and kind of what brought us to it, when we played it. So Jake, we'll start with you. What brought you to Gone Home?
So I actually had to go back and look at my last time played on Steam to even remember when I originally played it, which was back in December 2013, so the year it came out. And I just remember hearing a lot of really good things about it. I don't even remember buying it. I mean, obviously I did because free game giveaways weren't as big back then, and Steam doesn't really do those much anyways. And it was during a time when I was also playing a lot of the Telltale games, like Walking Dead and all of that, because those were big at the time. And so I was kind of in the mood for these just story games, and what I would do is try to play them in one sitting. And that's what I did with this. I had kind of jumped in the first couple minutes at one point and was like, okay. And then I stopped playing. And then it was just a little bit later, maybe like a week or so after that, when I got home from work one day and I was like, this is it. I'm going to do it. I sat down, put on my headphones, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy for this, but it was in the dark with my door shut and windows shut and played from beginning to end and just absolutely loved it. A lot. I've really enjoyed it.
All right, cool. And you replayed it like this week getting ready for it. How long did it take you to replay now that you know how to go through the game?
It wasn't that much shorter because I was still trying to like reread everything and re-listen to everything as I found it, and I was trying to do everything for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that much shorter. I mean, it's already a short game. My original playthrough was like 98 minutes is what Steam said. It might have missed a little bit here and there, but that's what it looked like. And this time was a little over an hour. And then I did a couple things. I looked up some things that I thought I might have missed, watched some videos, and a couple things like that. Got a couple achievements that were just kind of fun to do for no reason. But it wasn't that much shorter, really.
Okay, fair enough. As for me, I had played a couple of other walking sims, like I think I'd played Firewatch first and What Remains of Edith Finch, and I was kind of like looking up like other cool walking sims, because like you said, I kind of got this thing like I don't really like watching movies a whole lot, but I do like getting an entire story in one sitting. For me, games just have this like interactivity that I have trouble with movies. Feeling engaged unless I like go to the movie theater or something. So I was looking for more of these types of games, and Gone Home is on all of the like best walking sim lists, of course. And so I gave it a shot. And I think I mentioned this in the Firewatch episode, but I was too scared to finish this. I could not get through it. After maybe I went in the house and I went through the left wing of the house, and then I went upstairs, and as soon as I got upstairs, I got too scared and I stopped. So I put it down, and then after talking with you about it, I kind of got that inspiration to go back and try it again. And by that point, I had played some games that are actually scary, like legitimately scary. So I had a bit more like confidence in my ability to get through it. So decided to give it another go. So my playthrough took me about 2 hours to get through, which is, I think it's a bit long. Like, I don't think that this game should take more than 2 hours, but I was taking my time listening to all the stuff, reading all the documents I could find because I was really interested in what was going on. So yeah, that's my history with Gone Home there. So let's get into the kind of basics of the game and how it works. Before we start, we'll say, like, as a walking sim, Gone Home is really, really, really relying on its story to... what I'm trying to say is your enjoyment of the game will be based on how much you enjoy the story. And so, obviously, this episode is going to be really heavy on spoilers. So, if you don't want to be spoiled on the story, we will kind of talk briefly about it without spoilers, but there will be a spoiler section at the end of the episode where we will go in some detail about the story. So if you haven't played it, go play it. It takes 2 hours, but if you want to listen to it kind of as a service, that's cool too. So let's get started. As a walking sim, this is pretty light on mechanics. You're walking around and you're getting the story told to you, basically. So, Jake, I wanted to ask you, you said you've played this game and you've played Firewatch. And so what do you think what are you looking for in a game like this? If you were to look for another walking sim to play, like what about the genre are you trying to get in this type of game?
For me, it's really kind of a slice of life thing where I'm learning about these characters and I'm learning about their life, things they've gone through, and that's what really draws me into these. It's all about the people, not so much the setting, though of course that helps, but it's about the people, and if I feel connected and if I'm interested in their stories and what's going on in their lives, that's what will keep me interested. And both Gone Home and Firewatch had me interested in the people right away, and that's why I continued through and actually completed them, because I've dipped my toe in a bunch of other walking sims, and a lot of those, from the little bit of time I've spent in them, are much more about the setting and the area, and I'm barely learning anything about people at first, and I bounce off.
Interesting. Yeah, this game really is one of those like slice of life games, because as we'll get into it, you play as the main character, but you're just kind of learning what happened in the past. It's not really a story about you, the main character. So you are really getting a slice of life. That's cool. Anything about the genre that you that you dislike or you wish was different? Maybe, I mean, I know Firewatch and Gone Home are kind of different within the same genre, but anything about the genre that you kind of dislike or turns you off a little bit?
Slow movement.
Yeah.
But if I was able to sprint through, it would probably kill the mood, so it's probably a good thing that they don't let me do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, well, that's a good segue to talk about the kind of gameplay of Gone Home. This is, as far as slow movement goes, this is one of the slowest.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're tiptoeing around this house. So it's you're walking through the house, and That's what this game is. You get to a house and you're exploring it and uncovering the story. So you can walk around and interact with objects, like you can and should turn the lights on because it's dark and it's spooky. And you can also pick up objects and rotate them and open drawers and stuff like that. That's about it. There's no combat. You can't run. There's no jumping, nothing. It is walking and picking stuff up and checking containers. So the story has to be good because this is how you get your information. So that that feed of information has to be satisfying for a game like this to work. And I think that was part of the, if there was negative reception for this game back in the day, I don't know, you played it back in the day, maybe you had your finger on the pulse more than me, but if this is the game where reviewers started calling them walking simulators as a derogatory term, I guess some people didn't like the fact that your gameplay actions are super, super limited in Gone Home, even more than Firewatch, way more limited than Firewatch.
Yeah, that you really don't do much of anything. It's all about the story and experiencing it, and that's it.
And I've said this before on several episodes, I think walking sims are scary, just in general. Every single walking sim I've played has been some degree of scary, and Gone Home was no different, mostly because of the setting, but even without the setting, the fact that you can't do anything, if something were to happen, you have no defensive vocabulary at all.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and in Gone Home, the fact that it is in this dark house with those limitations on you as a player, if something were to happen, that was what led to this game being super, super scary.
Yeah. They do lean into some spooky things on purpose. There are some things that are supposed to be this is weird, why is this happening?
Yep.
And they do hint at spooky stuff within this old, dark home.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll talk about that in the spoilers section, I think. But you're right. They do, the developers know that you're going to be, uneasy at the very least, because this is a creepy situation, in a dark house.
And there's a storm going on outside, of course.
Right. So they know that you're going to be on edge a little bit, and they use that to their advantage a couple of times. So most of the time when you play the game, what you're doing is you are finding journals from the main character's sister, Sam. You're finding journals, and they play as audio logs as you walk through the house. So it's my preferred way to get these info dumps, which is to have it playing while I can walk around instead of I need to actually read 3 or 4 pages of text.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting those audio logs and you're walking around the house. Are you with me on that? Is that a good way for you to get information? Or I know maybe you can get distracted or something.
No, I like that way too, as long as it's handled well. Because in some games, you start listening to an audio log and then combat starts and it kicks it out and you have to go back and re-find it, re-listen to it from the beginning or whatever. They have to be put in places where that won't happen if it's that type of game, or done in a way where it's spaced out well. This one is spaced out well, that even if you're going straight from one to the other, if you know where they are, most likely the one will be ending as you're ready to pick up the next one. So you don't really need to be worried about missing something or cutting something off. You can keep exploring, and most likely you're not going to pick up something else that's trying to talk to you while you're still listening to a previous one.
Right. And that was an issue. I always point to BioShock as a good example of this, because they have a lot of lore and story they want to give you, and it wouldn't work if they just gave you pages of text. So they do this audio log system too, but in BioShock there's a lot going on, and it's the audio logs run for 30 seconds or so, which it doesn't sound very long, but in a setting like BioShock with combat and stuff like that, I found it really easy to get distracted from those. And in Gone Home, that never really happened.
Exactly.
Like you said, because they're spaced out pretty well. And they this is probably something they got from playtesting and stuff, but they kind of know, like, when you get the audio log, what are you going to do? You're either going to walk around slowly and look at other stuff, or you're just going to stand still and listen. And in both cases, it works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And in Gone Home, the other thing you're doing is going through and, like, opening every single cupboard, cabinet, dresser, drawer, closet in the entire game. And just, well, if you're me and you're a heathen, you just leave them open all the time. So this is kind of half walking sim and half cabinet opening sim,
Yes.
I think. That doesn't roll off the tongue quite the way walking sim does, but... Well, no spoilers, but Mom is going to be mad when she gets home because every single drawer and cabinet and light, every single light in the house is on. The house has been ransacked when you're done with this game. So,
yep.
Did you ever get tired of that? Like, you see a room and you're automatically like, okay, got to open those drawers, got to open that cabinet, got to see what's in that box.
It's short enough that I don't get tired of it. If it was much longer, I probably would. But it's short enough that it feels worthwhile.
That's true.
And you find stuff in cabinets and drawers often enough that it's worth it. Because there'll be, a few drawers with nothing. And then, here's a little snippet. Or here's something that actually starts talking to me. It's reading a journal entry. So I didn't really get tired of it in this. But I at least closed everything behind me. My goodness.
Oh, you're so polite. That's awesome. Not like me. I'm a degenerate gamer, and I'm not closing any doors or turning off any lights or anything like that.
I think the first time I played, the way I kept track of if I was done was I would close the door to the room. And I knew if the door was closed, I was done. If it was open, it meant that maybe there was something that had been locked in there that I hadn't been able to get to yet.
Oh, okay. The way I kept track of things was I would just leave all the cupboards open. And if I saw that everything was open, I'd be like, okay, I've been in here before. I've looked at that thing.
Yeah, but sometimes they have things that you couldn't open yet in that room.
Yeah. Well, those are rare enough that...
It's true. You kind of remember where they are. There's maybe 4 or 5 of those, if that, so it's not very much.
And I think they mark those on your map. If you get to a locked door or
Some
something
of them,
like that, they circle it on the map.
They don't mark locked cabinets or things like that, but they mark other things as you find them, or if you find a note that says something, that'll suddenly be on your map. So you don't have to remember, oh yeah, I read about something over here, it'll be on your map now, which is really nice.
Right, yeah. Because sometimes you'll get those, you'll find the key that will unlock that door all the way across the map, but you still have another couple of rooms you want to go look through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice that they highlight that, so I don't have to, literally write it down or something like that. Hey, dude, go check the basement now.
This isn't an 80s or 90s CRPG where you have to keep notes. Come on, draw my own map.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the kind of story and setting here before we get into the spoiler section. Quick question, though. The team that made this game, the Fulbright studio team, had previously worked on the BioShock 2 Minerva's Den DLC. Did you play that?
I have not played that because I played a bunch of the first BioShock but didn't actually beat it. And so I was always like, I need to beat it before I play BioShock 2. And I still haven't gone back and done that. So.
Gotcha. Well, the Minerva's Den DLC, I'm sure you've heard of it before. It has a really good reputation for its story, and that was these same people. So when I kind of saw that, it gave me a lot of confidence in their ability to tell a good story in a kind of, I don't want to say non-linear way, but in not just you are the main character and the main story is happening to you and stuff like that. It's not quite how this game works.
Mm-hmm.
And the Minerva's Den DLC, I think, is a kind of masterpiece of game storytelling, factoring in the differences between games and other mediums. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, this story is going to be good when I was getting ready. So in this story, you play as a 21-year-old woman named Katie Greenbrier, who has just returned from a year in Europe. And while she was away, her family moved into a new house, a big kind of like mansion on a hill. And when you arrive, this is your first time at the house, which is important for the way the story is told, I think. When you arrive, nobody's home, and there's a note on the front door from your younger sister Sam, and the note says, "Do not come in and do not investigate." And like we said earlier, it's dark. I think it's 1 a.m. There's a storm outside, so it's a pretty spooky setting. So, Jake, when you first try to remember, if you can, back from 2013, when you first saw this house, the storm, it's dark, and then the note from the sister that says, like, don't come in, don't investigate. Do you remember what your initial thoughts were upon seeing that?
Yeah, I was like, crap. Like I was on edge. I was on edge and I was like, oh boy. Whew. Like it got me excited, but at the same time I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Cuz I'm someone that yeah, I'm not great at playing horror games. I think the first time I realized that was two games come to mind. One was one of the unofficial like mods that was made for OG Half-Life, and it was called They Hunger, and it was a horror zombie mod, which was fantastically well made. I forget what happened to those guys, but you know, it's one of those things where I think they got hired by Valve eventually and stuff like that. And the other was Doom 3, when that first came out with the flashlight mechanic.
Yeah.
I realized the only way I was able to play those was if I had a friend over and I convinced them to sit next to me and watch me play this game because I thought it was cool. And then if they were like, no, never mind, and they left, I was like, I can't keep playing it. I had to turn it off.
Yeah. I can totally understand that because when I saw this this like beginning, I kind of like I knew that the game took place in a dark house before I started. I knew that much. But when I saw that and I saw that note that says like don't come in, don't investigate what's happened here, like all of my like dude, this is going to be too scary for you. All of those alarms started going off in my head because like I've said many times, I really don't like the feeling of being scared. I don't like that rush that you get from it. So, yeah, it was warning bells were ringing when I saw that.
Yeah, I don't like jump scares, but I like atmospheric fear. Like I like that, but get away from me with jump scares. I don't like it.
Same. I absolutely hate it, and that's part of the reason why I quit playing Gone Home the first time was that like I'd searched on like Reddit or something like, does Gone Home have jump scares? And people said no. And I actually want people to know this. If you're listening to this episode and you haven't played Gone Home and you're worried about being jump scared, this game does not have jump scares, and you can trust me because I hate jump scares. And I hate how like some people are like, "Oh, that's not a jump scare. That's not a jump scare," but it's
like it is to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like there's one thing that's kind of like a startle. But not at the level of a jump scare.
Yeah.
And when we go into the spoiler section, I'll mention it, because it even got me the second time around, because I had forgotten that it happens. But it's incredibly minor.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what it is, because I don't remember even a real startle. I thought this was a pretty calm experience. Once I had like mentally processed, no, people are not lying to you. There are no jump scares in this game.
Yeah.
So when I saw that at the beginning, that kind of put me on edge. And the other thing that really works for the setting is the house, inside the house. I think everyone can relate to that feeling where it's like, it's late at night. Maybe you woke up to go to the bathroom, or maybe you just got home really late or something like that. And your house is as dark as it could possibly be. And even though it's your house, you still get a little spooked by what's happening. And this game really gets that feeling. And it's even more because this is not your house. And for the main character, it's her first time in the house too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a totally unfamiliar, dark, it's not like a rundown horror mansion, but it's not like they were still in the process of moving. They hadn't unpacked everything. And that's kind of part of the setting too, is all these unopened boxes and stuff like that. And it adds a little bit to it. So yeah, I think that this house as the setting is fantastic.
I would definitely agree. It's really well thought out. It's really well laid out. And it's really fun to explore.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little details in the house that really make it feel like a real person's house. Like, just the one that I wrote down is that if you look at the refrigerator, there are like wedding invitations on the refrigerator. And my refrigerator is, covered in old wedding invitations because we don't throw anything away. And like there are so many little touches like that that make this feel like a real place that has real people living in it. It's really, really good.
Yeah. One of the things I really like is, I mean, I kind of see it in this next part we're going into about the story being told and learning about the family. And not only the family, but for every member of the family, you learn about at least one connection they have to somebody outside the family, if not more than one, which just helps build that extra layer of believability and reality to it. You're not just learning about mom, dad, and sister. You're learning about, mom or dad and co-workers or extended family and sister and people she knows at school, or people she knows from wherever. And that adds one more layer to give the characters better depth and make it more interesting to find out about, because you're not just discovering inter-family relationships, but also their other relationships that might affect how their inter-family relationships happen.
Yeah. I think we're going to mention this several times, and I think we already did, but the family, they feel like real people. Even though this game is only 2 hours long, the family feels like real people, and I think that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You learn about not just the way they interact with each other, but like other parts of their lives, because, we have our families, but we also spend a lot of time with other people, and we have connections with other people. And you'll see that, in people's houses, you'll see pictures of other people, or you'll see, I don't know, if people keep postcards from other people or something like that. You'll see that stuff, and this game really nails that.
Yeah, incredibly well.
So let's talk like spoiler free for just a minute about the story, because it's really hard to go any further than we already have without getting into spoilers. But spoiler free thoughts about the story, Jake?
It's good. I really enjoy it. There's good family drama, and there's good individual drama for each of the characters. I mean, it's definitely focused on the sister, but each of the characters, mom and dad as well, have things going on that you find out about. And they each have things that you kind of like, well, that wasn't probably a good thing to do, or that wasn't good, flaws, but also, I get it. I understand. They do a really good job of making them feel like real people.
Right. And like along that note, the way that the story unfolds, I think, is a very believable story. And this is a video game, and video games tend to get into fantasy land a little bit. I mean, they can, because it's a video game. You can literally make whatever you can draw and like render, you can put into a video game. So the limits are a little bit less than some other media, I think. But this game really keeps it down to earth in a really believable way. And yeah, the way the story is told, slowly you're getting these audio logs that tell you the story. It lets you kind of marinate on that story beat and think about what it means for the characters, and then you get the next one, and by the end you have this kind of like snapshot of this family and their relationships with each other and kind of how they exist in the outside world too. I think it's really well done for a game that's 2 hours or less.
Absolutely.
So let's get into our like kind of final thoughts in summary, recommendation, if you recommend the game, and then we'll get into spoilers after that. So Jake, we'll start with you as the guest. Your kind of final thoughts about Gone Home in summary.
I really enjoy it. I think it's well worth playing. Again, especially since it's so short, you can just sit down and play it instead of watching a movie or watching 2 or 3 episodes of a show one day. Just sit down and play this instead. It's a good story. It's fun to experience. It's got good atmosphere, good voice acting, and it's very enjoyable and well worth the amount of time that it requires.
That's a good point about the voice acting. You didn't mention it. The voice acting for Sam is really, really good.
Yeah.
She did a great job. My final thoughts about Gone Home is it's kind of interesting playing this game after playing some of the like more recent acclaimed walking sims like Edith Finch and Firewatch, because those do a little bit to vary up the gameplay so you're not just walking and opening stuff the whole time in those games. So it was interesting playing Gone Home, which I was doing some research, and this is one of the kind of early versions of the genre. Is interesting to see where they got their inspiration. And like you, I enjoyed the story, and I think the characters are really good. And I can't overstate how well the setting of the abandoned house works. However, unlike you, I will not play this game in the dark with the lights off and the doors closed. Lights are on. I'm playing this, at peak daytime hours, like 1 p.m. or something like that, because I still do think that it's kind of spooky, but...
Oh no, you gotta lights off. Preferably there's a lightning storm outside at the time you're playing. Headphones on for that full, nice sound experience. I love it.
Yeah, well, now that I know what's going on, I think I could probably handle that, but yeah. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping here before we get into the spoilers section. So thank you for listening. If you're going to tap out now because you don't want to be spoiled on Gone Home, I support that. Go play this game. It's fairly cheap and it will not take up much of your time. This is part of the Lazy Sunday series. You can definitely play this game in a Sunday afternoon. So thank you for listening if that's you. And if you want to support the show, please subscribe on your platform of choice. Please leave ratings and reviews if you can. I think that helps fight the man. And the best thing you can do is just tell people that there's a games podcast that you should check out, even though people may shrug and disown you and block you on social media for suggesting new podcasts, but it's worth it. I also do a podcast called A Top 3 Podcast, where each week I pick a topic and my 3 best friends and I talk about our top 3 things in that topic and discuss. So that one's a good time. Sometimes we talk about games, but we're all over the place with our topics on that show. So check that out if you want to hear more of me, which of course you do. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it is spoiler time. Okay, we're back, and it's time for spoilers in Gone Home. So, in this section, instead of going kind of like beat by beat with what you discover in the order you discover it in the house, I want to talk about the individual family members and their stories. And then when we get to talking about Sam, that will go kind of in the chronological order. So let's start with, I think, the first character that you really get substantial information about, which is the dad, whose name is Terry. I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Terry is a failed/failing writer who's published 2 JFK conspiracy thriller novels starring a main character named John Russell. Those books did not sell very well, and at the point of the story, he's writing like consumer electronics reviews, and he's kind of getting scolded for going on tangents in his writing. I like that detail, like from his superior, where you get that like, hey man, just fucking write a speaker review. Stop going on tangents about your personal life. It kind of gives this feeling like dad is a little bit unhinged with his writing and not really taking this very well.
Yeah, and if you look around his areas, like his office and stuff, you can find stuff like a whiskey bottle hidden at the top of a bookshelf. You can tell he is not handling the failure very well, because he's working on a 3rd book, but he got turned down by the people that published the first 2.
Right.
They said, sorry, the only reason we okayed the second one, we didn't think the first one was great, but we gave the go-ahead on the second in the hopes that it would catch on as a character. And it just hasn't. And so he's not handling this well, and you find that him not handling this well is also affecting the mom and her story and their story. Because again, they all have their own individual stories and their own stories interacting with each other. And it's pretty great how well they pulled that off.
Yeah. And mom is like, we'll talk about her in a second, but mom is like, as dad's career is going in the like down the tubes, mom's career is going very, very well, and she's like getting promoted and stuff.
Yes.
And it's really easy to imagine how that dynamic can put a strain on a married couple, especially a married couple with children.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
The house is full of boxes, like full of these books that were never sold, which is a really nice touch that really like kind of like punches home the fact that these books were not very successful. I didn't count how many boxes. There's got to be at least 20 or 30 boxes full of these books, like scattered around the house, like wherever there's space, basically.
Yeah, you find copies of the first one, you find copies of the second one. In one of the boxes, if you move the top layer of books, you find adult magazines hidden underneath them.
Yeah, because he's thinking like, well, no one's going to check in here. This is the safest hiding place in the whole house.
And it's funny, when you like hover over the magazine before picking it up, you get like a little thing, like a little subtitle kind of what your character's thinking, and it says, "Gosh, Dad."
Yeah. Yeah, there's another point in the game where you're going through mom and dad's dresser drawers because of compulsive gamer behavior, and you see a condom in there, and the little like interact icon is just ugh from Katie.
It's good. It's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really like, that's my main takeaway with Dad, is just like you go through the story and like the first couple things you see actually make it seem like he's a successful author.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you learn that he's an author before you learn how you guys got that house. So you
Yes.
I think I thought for a second like, oh shit, Dad is like Stephen King, or I don't know.
Yep.
Having trouble thinking of another, like Tom Clancy or something like that, writing these thriller novels.
Yeah, that's the feeling I for sure got too.
Then you find out soon after that, like, he's not doing great. I think it's like 2 rooms over. You get the letter from his employer scolding him about his reviews. you can find or a combination to unlock a file cabinet that has the will from the uncle that like that. Oh, that's how you got this house. They inherited it from their uncle.
Yep.
So.
Yep, from the dad's uncle.
And there's some people that say, and like I trust them. It's not like I don't think this is like fan rumors that there is like some kind of sexual abuse hinted at from the uncle toward dad, but I never found that. Did you?
No, I hadn't heard that either. I mean, you definitely get the feeling that everything wasn't great with the uncle because, well, I mean, one, you start hearing that there's always been rumors about the house and the uncle, and you also see that they hadn't talked in a long time, and there's a very apologetic tone to some things you find from the uncle. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was there or hinted at somewhere and I missed it. I mean, it would fit with the story.
Yeah, it seemed. I don't know if you actually find concrete evidence of it in the story, but I think it's a very, very popular theory of people trying to dissect the story. I think that's beyond the threshold of how I generally look at stories in video games, or stories in general. I'll say, not just video games. But anyway, that is at least hinted at, or it's a very strong fan theory, but I can't really comment further on that. One other thing about Dad before we move on, unless you have something else, there's a really good, like later in the game, you see the like typewriter where he's writing the third book, and there's a very funny like kind of like story setup for the third book that I should have written down when I was playing, but it's a very cheesy like the murder he's going to solve this time is his own, like that.
Yeah.
And it's just so cheesy and stupid, but it's very much like writers who are out of ideas or something like that. It's pretty good.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's a good little touch.
So, yeah, anything else about Dad before we move on to Mom?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the setup for where he is. I figure we'll come around and towards the end come talk about where they're at once you find the full stories for them.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, we definitely will.
Okay.
So the setup for Mom, her name is Janice Greenbrier. She's a wildlife conservationist, and in contrast to Dad, like we just said, Mom is doing really well. One of the first things you find about her is that she was supposed to go out to like a controlled burn out in the forest, and she did really well, and she got a promotion. So like, as you're discovering Dad's writing career failing, you're discovering her just like, apparently she's just like the best. She just keeps getting promotions, and you find like a letter from her supervisor saying like what a good job she did, and there's a newspaper clipping about how she did a great job, and it's just like the total opposite of Dad.
Yeah.
And I kind of got the feeling through this that she spends a lot of time out in the park and like not as much time at home. Did you get that same feeling?
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely get the feeling that her job is her happy place and not her home.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting in the house how if you go in the front door, the wing to the left is like Dad's space. He's got like his writing space, his big ass library, and like the TV room and stuff like that. And then the right wing of the house, which you can't go into until much later in the game, that's like Mom's area. And I think she's got like an art studio, or like it's her hobby space over there. So they basically just like taken up opposite sides of the house, which I don't know, you could read into that. Something I want to say, like, you know, if I had a house that big, my wife and I would each have separate rooms for our hobbies and stuff like that. If we had the space, why not? But you do get the feeling that there is some like distance between them. And one of the things that gives you that feeling is you find out that Mom has been hanging out, we'll say, definitely hanging out with a male colleague after work. You find an invitation from that colleague to an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert, which is a great a, a great concert for this,
Oh,
probably
for
for
sure.
the age group that they're into. And
Yeah, and it very specifically drops the hint where he says, "Hey, my girlfriend can't go. Would you like to?" Like they never say that anything happens, but they definitely hint that if it hasn't, it's going that way.
yeah, exactly. And I just think Earth, Wind, and Fire is a great concert to go to if you're cheating on your spouse. You find that ticket stub in the like in the heating vent on the floor,
Yeah.
which she's got to be more careful with throwing away the evidence there.
And this is also, I don't think we mentioned, this is set in the mid 90s. It's 1995.
Oh, right, right.
Just as, because that gives some reasoning as to, like, oh, why aren't they just texting each other and calling each other on the cell phones? You know,
Exactly,
it
exactly.
gives that caveat to the story of why they're, like, missing each other and leaving messages and not able to just directly communicate about what's going on. So,
Yeah, and why Katie gets to the house and she has no idea what's been going on. They've just been
mhm.
communicating through postcards. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I you this it's some it, there's always this like cognitive dissonance with stories where people are not communicating the way that they should be, and so I feel like
Yeah,
a game like this or like any story basically that wants to set up a situation like this has to go
just text each
pre-cell
other.
phone era. Yeah, exactly.
No, seriously. It's why there's entire episodes of sitcoms that don't work on the generation now. It's like you would just call each other. It's like, no, they
Yeah.
couldn't do that. That's the whole point. They weren't at home. You don't know where they are or how to contact them. The end.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was just watching the Seinfeld episode with the Chinese restaurant where
Exactly.
the whole thing is them waiting to use a payphone so they can call somebody, and you know,
Does
I'm
not
not,
work
I'm,
anymore as a
yeah,
plot
I'm
point.
not, I'm not breaking any news here, but that yeah, it wouldn't work now. And so yeah, that's a good point that this game is set in the 90s pre-cell phone era, and that's why Katie doesn't have any information about what's happening, and that's why there's like stuff with the sister too. She can kind of
hmm
like lie and go do whatever she wants because she's out of contact.
Yeah, and it's why no one's there when you get home, because when you get there, you find your character's message saying, "Hey, I'm going to get there late," unlistened to on the answering machine. So they didn't even know that she was going to be arriving at the time she did.
Yeah. Oh, the answering machines. That's a blast from the past.
Oh
Get
yeah.
home, check the messages.
Yep.
So we kind of brought up Sam there, so let's get into talking about Sam. And Sam is Katie's younger sister, and Sam is the real main character of the story. This story is about her.
Yes.
Mom and Dad are the side characters, and
Your proxy.
Katie is just you.
hmm
Yeah, exactly. So Sam is a senior in high school, and I really like how they kind of characterize her early before you start seeing her story. Her characterization starts when you find one of her school assignments about the menstrual cycle. And first of all, what got this was I am a teacher, and that assignment seems very teacher trying to make uh, something that could be like awkward for people or something that could be boring, trying to make it entertaining and not awkward. That story of like, tell the story of the menstrual cycle. So Sam wrote this like wild story about lovers in Poland during a war, and like all the while the body processes are happening while this like war torn love story is happening, and all you see is a note from the teacher at the top that says "See me," and it gives you this feeling like Sam is like this rebellious kid. She's creative. She it like she sees like, oh, this assignment's kind of bullshit. I'm gonna have fun with this. It gives you a little slice of her character before you even get her story.
It also creates a good connection because Dad's a writer, and you can see that she likes creative writing as well.
That's true. Yeah, good point. I like this also because later in the game you see Katie's version of that same assignment,
Yep.
and Katie's is just so boring, so like by the book. She gets a good grade
It's
on
just
it.
the assignment.
Yep. So a little contrast with Sam and Katie there. So before getting too much into Sam, because this story is about her, we're going to get into like the plot of the story. Any other kind of thoughts about the family before we move on?
They're just really well thought out, as we kind of talked about previously. Their stories are interesting. They're each distinct. They each have their outside of the family interactions as well as their inside of the family reactions. They feel very believable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the, like, I think that they could have spun this web out too far. They could have reached too far with some of these storylines, but they keep it pretty believable. You know, mom is hanging out with a male colleague, maybe having an affair. Dad is having career trouble. He's maybe, like you said, maybe there's some alcoholism brewing or already present. Um, little sister's a teenage girl. You know, it just seems like a very believable family. There's really nothing about the family dynamic and stuff that makes me think like, that's weird.
I would say there's also on the other end nothing that's like, oh, that's cliche and boring. That's dumb.
Yeah, all of these things we're talking about the family, like the dad's failing writing career and mom is, doing well in her career and maybe having an affair. Like those are not super exciting, but they're not cliche. They feel very real, and it's a good testament to the storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. They could have easily been cliche, but like you said, the storytelling is done so well that instead it just feels grounded and real.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So let's talk about the story. So the story starts, and you get an audio log from Sam that's kind of talking about like her early days at the new school after they moved. And you find a note. It's in the first hallway. It's crumpled up, and it's like it's one of those like pass back and forth in class notes. Like I don't even know if kids are doing that these days, but definitely back in the 90s. And someone like pretends to ask her a serious question, and then she says like, "Yeah, sure, ask me whatever." And they ask like, they like make fun of her for living in the psycho house and asking if going crazy runs in the family. And that like psycho house trope is something that I remember a lot from older like horror stories, basically. So that like really put me on edge right at the beginning.
For sure. Yeah, you're like, oh, wait, what's going on?
And there's like this hint that the uncle did something or had some kind of mental disorder or something like that. And I don't know, it really put me on edge. And it like for most of the game, they're running with this as like a plot of like, this could be
Yeah,
the mystery that you're uncovering, is like, what happened in this house?
it's a possibility.
And it's not.
Nope.
It's a red herring. The story that is being told here has nothing to do with the uncle, nothing to do with his mental health problems, nothing to do with some grisly thing that happened in this house. It's just maybe just teenagers spreading shitty rumors.
Absolutely. So there was something going on with the uncle, which you can find what really happened with him.
Okay.
If you get into the safe in the basement.
Oh, I didn't open the safe. So what's in there?
Basically a bunch of old medications, morphine and stuff. He was self-medicating and was probably addicted to morphine and having some pretty serious issues because of that.
I see. Okay, so maybe not teenagers.
Yeah, you find... Yeah, no. You find, like, rubber tubing, syringes, morphine, classic old medications that are now very highly regulated.
Right, yeah. So yeah, maybe not teenagers spreading shitty rumors and just like, I don't know how big this town is, but if it's a small town, then everyone knows that one house. Like that's the psycho house, or like that's the haunted house in the town, and like you kind of get the feeling that. Go ahead.
Yeah, if they're always seeing this guy and maybe sometimes he's seen and he's, pale and has the sweats, or you hear screaming come from the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that can happen with morphine withdrawals. So it's the story that's been passed down, the urban myth, that's just the way that people have interpreted what this guy was going through when they didn't know what he was actually going through.
Right. Yeah. And then that gets put onto Sam when she moves into the house. And
exactly,
there's like another kind of red herring plot that you uncover where Sam and Lonnie are using a Ouija board to like communicate with the ghost of Uncle Oscar. And you find like their Ouija board like reading or something like that, and they ask like, "What do you want?" And he writes like, "To live" or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty brief plot line. Of course, this is not what's happening, but I think it's a really good for like 15 or 20 minutes. It gives you this like, oh shit, is there a ghost in this house?
Yeah.
I think both of those red herrings are really, really good.
Yeah, they're done in a way that lets them be believable for a while, which builds tension. But then when you find out the truth, you're like, oh, but this is absolutely what some teenagers would do. Like, it's not like, oh, that was, again, not, oh, that was dumb, but okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And I would say the first time that I went upstairs and went down the hallway with all the red lights around the attic,
yeah,
freaked me out.
Yep. And
I was like, why is there an attic highlighted in red lighting? That is creepy. And then it's like, oh, it's just because she makes pictures up there. And the red lights are saying, don't come in because you'll ruin the pictures I'm producing.
Yeah, exactly. But like when you first see that, it's pretty soon after you get this like ghost story side plot. And I was very much like, okay, I'm at the end of the hallway. The last place is the attic. I really don't want to go up there. And then I clicked on it and it was like, the attic's locked. And I was like, fuck yes, the attic's locked. I don't have to go in there right now. All right. Good. Yeah. Whew.
Yep.
So yeah, that's those little like horror side plots that are just there to like kind of let your imagination run wild in this like dark and stormy house. Those are really, really good. Excellent little distractions.
Yes, they are, for sure.
So, in the actual story of what actually happened, you start to get these journal entries from Sam, and she's talking about like this. I don't even think she says girl at first. I think she just talks about this kid named Lonnie, and I thought it was a boy because Lonnie either Lonnie at the very least reads to me as a gender neutral name, and I
Mm-hmm.
know boys named Lonnie, so I thought it was a boy, but you quickly find out it's not. Lonnie is a girl at school, and so Sam is talking more and more about Lonnie and how they're hanging out, and they're kind of getting close. And this is the beginning of the love story, which is like the main plot of the game, is the love story between Sam and Lonnie. And I think that, first of all, I need to say, like, I am not gay. I don't have these experiences that are being brought out in the story here. But I think that this story is done in a very tasteful way. Like, no one's really asking for my input on this as a straight white guy, I'm aware. But I like how this, like, the story is about these two teenage girls falling in love, but it's played up just as a regular love story. That's what I'm trying to
Absolutely.
say. Like, they're not caricatures like older stories used to do, where you'd have gay characters and like that's their entire personality is that they're gay. And
Yeah,
this
the
is not like
stereotypes.
this at all. It's a very tasteful story.
No, it's really sweet. It's really sweet and touching. And, I mean, it's easily, one of the reasons that I loved it so much is just, it's so feel good, you
Yeah.
know?
And like the way that you get these like audio logs of, them hanging out, them like sneaking out and going to like I think it's a Misfits concert.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really brought back like how strong those like teenage feelings of attraction used to be.
Yeah.
I think that they really captured that really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, they just talk about hanging out. They talk about like playing video games.
Yeah, playing Street
I think
Fighter.
Lonnie, yeah, they start to play Street Fighter, talk about playing video games. And, Sam like looks up to Lonnie because she's this punk girl, and she thinks that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it kind of feels just that, like, oh, this is this cool girl that knows who she is. And then, quickly it comes into that, oh my goodness, like, do I like her? Does she like me? Is she even like that? Am I like that? Like, and it's really sweet.
And they go to this Misfits concert, and they have a real like moment at the concert together. And then Lonnie starts hanging out over at the house more and more and more. And by this point, you're upstairs going through the house. You've gone through Sam's bedroom. There's a locker that's locked. But other than that, you're going around. All the fucking TVs are left on like the static channel, which is very creepy. I need to turn the TVs
Yeah.
off as soon as I go in these rooms. And one of my favorite moments in the game that just gave me a little startle is when you go. Is this the startle you're talking about? When you go into the bathroom and it looks like
No,
it's covered in blood?
this isn't it, but this
No,
is a great moment.
it's really good. So you go and you see this bloody bathtub, kind of around the area where if you were laying in the bathtub, your head would be, is just covered in red. And you're like, oh fuck! Like,
What happened?
Someone got murdered in the bathtub, and then you immediately find a journal that says like, oh no, I helped Lonnie dye her hair red, and she got hair dye on the bathtub and didn't clean it up, and you're like, ah man,
Yeah.
that was a very
And you find the bottle of red dye right there.
yeah, and that whole sequence lasts like a minute or 2 minutes or probably even less than that, like a minute or less, where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
someone's dead. Oh, no, red hair dye. Okay, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done really, really well. It's a good little fake out.
One of many.
Yeah. So then you keep progressing and you get to the part where Sam comes out to her parents and kind of talks about how she's in love with Lonnie, and her parents are in denial of what's happening. They basically say like, no, that's not possible. You can't be gay. That's,
You're too young. There's no way you could know that. You haven't even had a boyfriend to see. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically all of the checklist of being in denial about that, I guess.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of that particular journal entry, when she's getting ready to say, hey, I told mom and dad, and this is how they found out, this is how they reacted, is she basically says, like, I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've known, I'm sure you could tell, I've known since She-Ra. I love that line. I've known since She-Ra. And I was like, that is such an awesome little drop, because she would have been an 80s kid, and She-Ra, yeah, would have been the thing, like, oh, a strong female. I like, and it's like, it's such a great line. I really like it.
Yeah, it's good. And like, I kind of thought that was a joke, but I guess it could also be true. Sam's kind of a sarcastic and funny teenager. So yeah, that's good though.
Mm-hmm.
So like, about the parents, like the parents are kind of in denial about it, but I actually like how they're portrayed here, because again, they seem real in a way. Like, so they're not accepting of this. They're not like, oh, okay, well, I'm happy that you're figuring yourself out. They don't say that, but they're also like, no daughter of mine is going to be gay or something like that. They don't go on those extreme ends of the spectrum.
They try to ignore it.
Yeah, they try to ignore it. They still let Lonnie come over to the house. So like, they don't do like that, you're never allowed to see her again. They don't do that.
You are forbidden.
Yeah. And they basically just institute like an open door policy in the house, which you can see on I think that's on the bulletin board outside of Sam's bedroom, or maybe it's a note somewhere else in the house. But yeah, they basically say like, okay, well, she comes over, you have to leave your bedroom door open, basically.
Yeah.
Speaking of that bulletin board, I thought there's a nice little meta gamer Easter egg there, where they were like, it's her mom scolding Sam for leaving all the lights on in the house after you've just spent like the last 35 minutes going through the house, like frantically turning on every light bulb you see because it's so damn dark. That was really, really good.
No, I was hoping you would bring that up, because that's a moment I really like too. And I think she even says you're more and more like your sister, like indicating that you're the one that's done this in the past anyway, and you're doing it again now.
That's really good.
It's a really great calling you out as the player for not treating this like a real space.
Yeah, and if there was a note later scolding her for leaving cabinet doors open, I would have lost it. That would have been good. But yeah, just one time is enough.
Yeah.
So, you kind of figure out, like, after you learn the story of Sam and Lonnie, kind of falling in love, you find out that the parents have gone on a camping trip, and that's why they're not home.
It was supposed to be for their anniversary, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Later, it's revealed that it's not actually a camping trip. It's a couples counseling retreat, and another like kind of like fake out that the game did is their bedroom is a fucking mess. Yeah. It looks like they packed their bags in 10 minutes and ran out the front door. And so that kind of gave me this. And this was right. I went in the bedroom right after going in the bathroom with the red hair dye.
Yep.
I got in the bedroom. I was like, oh shit. Like, are they running from something to get out of here? And there's also a board game about ghosts in that general area in the house. Yeah. And like, by this point, my nerves were like, oh my God, I can't take this. And this is right before you turn the corner and you see the red lights going up to the attic. It's really good at building that tension.
Yeah, like you said, you find out it's a couples counseling retreat. And that's something else I like, is there's all these stories that seem like they're, everyone's crashing into a garbage pit. And then you're like, wait, no, this is actually, they're coming out of that. They're coming to these kind of happy, not endings, because nothing's over, but these things are going in happy directions for people.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we've mentioned this, I don't know if it gets brought up, but you also eventually find out that the dad might not be doing as bad as he thought because he's found another publisher that likes his stories.
Yeah.
And he found a new direction to go with the third book.
Mm-hmm.
That people seem to really be liking, and a new publisher wants it and says it's really good. And so you're like, wait, no, things are looking up for him. Mom is doing good at work. They are going to work things out and not, go down these terrible paths of what it looks like, either possible alcoholism and an affair. And no, they're going to work things out. They're doing good.
Right.
It's a feel good thing after being stressed out for a while in this house.
Yeah, but you get those kind of like uplifting moments basically at the end.
Yeah, everything starts coming together.
Yeah. This is where you start to learn why the house is empty. So the parents are gone. They're on this trip. And before we get into kind of the ending and what's going on with Sam, we got to talk about these secret passages through the house that you find. You unlock Sam's... I think it's in Sam's locker. You get a map of these secret passages that Uncle Oscar had. And so you pull out these baseboards and the first one is in Mom and Dad's closet.
Yeah, you find basically wall panels that open.
Yeah. Right, not baseboards, they're wall panels. And
there are hidden compartments along the baseboards.
Right.
As well.
Right. And you find these passages that are just like lined with weird fashion magazine cutouts, like black and white cutouts.
This is where one of my jumps was.
Okay, so what was it?
You go down into one of these secret passages and you turn on the light and you see this weird stuff and then the light blows out.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I had forgotten it did that, and when it did it the second time I was playing, I was like, oh shit. And my heart started going and I was like, okay, because I know that nothing actually happens, but it got me. And I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This is it. This is where I die.
I remember that too, because like I said, I was like compulsively turning on lights. Like as soon as I entered any room, I was like, okay, where's the light? Turn the light on. Hurry up.
Yep. Light switch, light switch, light switch.
Yeah, that's a good moment. The developers, they know your compulsive behavior there, and they know blowing out that light's going to screw with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you think that these, like, at least I thought that these like secret passages were going to lead to like the house's sinister secret or something like that, but they're kind of just like shortcuts from one end of the house to the other.
Yeah, that's all they are.
They give you access to the other parts of the house too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can access the, I guess we'll call it the east wing of the house. I'm not sure what the actual directions are, but yeah. So you open up a few of these passages. You find some places down there where Sam and Lonnie had been hanging out. In
one of these compartments is where you find the Ouija board, stuff like that.
Yeah. In one of those, that one's in just like a kind of baseboard wall panel you can pull out, and you find it in there.
Yep, and then it's in there.
And in these compartments, you get some more story about Sam and Lonnie. Lonnie is in a band, and Sam is like super supportive of her. She thinks she's awesome. Just totally like in love with this person and everything she does. And it's really sweet. And you find like the tapes of them, like they're, I don't know, the band's demo tapes or something like that.
Yeah, some of the tapes you find, I think, are like mixtapes that Lonnie made for Sam.
Yeah.
And then some of the tapes are actually of the band that Lonnie is singing in.
Right. And they're sufficiently like bad, like a high school band. I like them a lot.
Yeah. And again, even though it is, like you said, it's a high school band, it's touching. You're like, this is, punk is a very emotional music that a lot of people either like their whole life or go through phases with. That's, it's about exploring identity. It really is, and it's a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's get into kind of the ending. I think we're ready for that. So you find out this is before you go up into the attic. You find out that
Yep.
you had already known that Lonnie is in junior ROTC, and there's this weird kind of thing where Sam kind of questions like, oh, you're this punk rock person, but you're in, like, you're going to join the military? Like, that doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. Because punk rock is anti-authority. Like,
right.
That's what it is.
And you don't get much more authoritarian than the military.
Exactly.
So you find out that Lonnie's shipping out to basic training soon, which, like, it felt like Sam should have been aware that this was going to happen, and she was just kind of like willfully ignorant that, like, hey, she's going to leave and she's going to be gone for a while. And Sam, I guess, she either didn't know or she was just like, oh, I'll think about that later. That's a problem for future me. But she should have known about this.
Yeah, she was caught up in young love, and she probably just thought of Lonnie as punk rock girl, and she'll never actually go all the way through with this.
Yeah, that's a good point. She probably thought like, oh, she's doing it right now, but like, she's not actually going to join the army, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's the feeling I got.
Okay, that's fair enough. I kind of had the feeling like, come on, girl, like, you had to have seen this. Like, surely she's mentioned this before.
Yeah, but as a teenager, you're also not as aware of stuff like that. You can be a bit more oblivious.
That's true. So Sam is like super, super depressed when Lonnie leaves. They have a nice, like, Lonnie does one final concert before she goes, and there's a very touching like journal entry about that and how this is like their, last night together or something like that before she goes. But Sam is really, really broken up about this. And Sam says, like, in the next journal entry, she talks about how she's going up into the attic. Like, she's really, again, really broken up about Lonnie leaving.
Yeah. She says, I can't live without her.
Yeah, exactly. And so she says she's going to go up in the attic, which is like their spot in the house where they used to hang out.
The place where you find the key to get to the attic, you also find more hints at weirdness. You find a pentagram with candles and like a picture of Oscar in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's also where you find the key to the attic, and she's been all depressed. And again, they just keep adding all this something horrible feeling on top of you.
Yeah. So before I say what I thought, what did you expect when you were going to the attic to open it up after hearing how broken up about this Sam is?
The same thing you did. That I thought I was going to go up there and find her dead. Yeah.
100% thought I was like, I was like really creeping through there.
I was already starting to tear up. Like, I was at the point where I'm like, as soon as I see this, I'm going to start bawling.
Yeah, it would have been incredibly sad because at this point, Sam is a really, really likable character.
Extremely.
And yeah, that would have really messed with me. And like, kind of looking back on it, I played this game 8 years after it was released. I kind of feel like if she was dead, I would have heard about it,
Mm-hmm.
Huge twists like that in games don't really stay hidden forever. But that's what I was expecting to see was her body. And so I was like creeping through the attic stairs, like really going as slowly as I can, because I was like, fuck. Like,
yeah, my heart was going.
Yeah. You haven't seen anybody in this game. Like, there are no other like characters that you see face to face. And so I was like, oh man, like this is how this story's going to end. You're going to go up there and find that she killed herself. And that's why the note is on the front door. That's kind of like she's trying to keep Katie away from it. Like,
yeah, she doesn't want Katie to be the one to find it.
Yeah. And like that light bulb clicked on as when I was creeping up the stairs, but like like we've been hinting at, that's not what happens.
Mm-mm.
And we've said before, this is a feel good story, and so this would not be a feel good story if this is how the story ended. But you go up there and you find another audio log from Katie, or not from Katie, from Sam, where Lonnie calls, and I like this touch. Like, Lonnie called 3 times. Sam missed the first 2 calls and almost missed the third one, but Lonnie had gotten off the bus to basic training and called and said, like, hey, let's run away together. Let's start a new life. And Sam did. And Sam basically says, like, Katie, I'll see you again someday. And that's kind of the last bit that you get. So how did that ending work for you?
Oh, fantastically. I loved it. I teared up. I'm a crier. I'll say that, with stories. I can tear up for happy things, for sad things, for I just do. That's me. And I definitely did on this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I love this. I love this happy, feel good ending. It worked really well. But one thing I wanted to throw in really quick with the messages that are missed from Lonnie, those are played to great effect because, like, you hear one of those messages, or 2 of them, I think. I think you hear the 2 on the answering machine downstairs, and she's like crying and going, Sam, where are you? Where are you? And you're like, oh my God, what happened? And it was just that she was, she would have been crying. She decided to change it. It was like, I need to talk to you. Like, it was a sadness with happiness as the end point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you only hear those things at first, you're like, oh my God, no one can find Sam. What happened? And it leans into that, what you think you're going to find when you go up there, but then you don't, thankfully.
Oh man, that's I missed the answering machine. I didn't see it.
You hear those messages, and then the last message you hear is the one that Katie herself left saying, hey, I'm going to be getting in really late. Don't worry about trying to pick me up. And since you're hearing that, those are all unheard messages. So no one has listened to those. You're like, what's happened? Why hasn't anyone heard these?
Yeah.
And it adds to that sense of mystery.
Yeah, I bet at the beginning of the story you hear these. So is it pretty early in the story when you find the answering machine?
Yeah, when you walk into the house, and the stairs are right in front of you.
Yeah.
To the left of the stairs in the hallway going to the left wing, there's a phone on a little hallway table, and you find other phones that you can pick up. This one you can actually play the messages.
Ah, interesting. So you walk in the house and you don't know anything, and the first couple of messages you hear are this like frantic, Sam, where are you?
Yes, this frantic, crying girl saying, Sam, where are you?
Shit.
Why aren't you there?
That would have added a lot more atmosphere onto it. I can't believe I missed that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things to miss. I mean, they had a cat.
I did. I saw the cat's collar in the closet.
You find the collar, and I think you find something that says, like, I miss you, about the cat or something from Sam. And there's even a secret cat journal entry you can get.
Aw.
That's like, it was literally written by a cat. Like, it's literally just meow, 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 meow. While pictures of cats play on the television in Sam's room.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a weird out of the way thing that to be able to do. You have to go in the garage, and in the garage there's a recycle bin with like cans and stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
You use the cans to throw at something you can see up in the, like, laying on top of the garage door sliders.
Right.
And if you throw it just right, it knocks down a little purple ball, a cat toy. And you bring that to Sam's room, and she has a little basketball hoop on the back of her door, and you have to make a basket. And then it plays the secret cat audio journal. I watched a video of it. I haven't done it myself. I saw that. I was like, wait, what? Secret cat journal? And I hit play and watched a little bit. I was like, wow, that is really hidden and kind of funny, and completely kills the mood if you accidentally were to do it somehow on your first playthrough.
Oh yeah, that would maybe give you the wrong idea about what kind of game this is, but
Yeah.
that's kind of cool that
Yeah.
it's there. I don't know how anyone discovers that for the first time, honestly, but
I know.
I shudder to think of how much time someone spent just making any and all objects interact with each other in the game before they figured out that happens.
You can find some funny stuff, like people that organize the house. Like, you can find where they went and found every single toothpaste from all the bathrooms and, like, lined them up on the floor. You can find stuff where that opening foyer where the stairs are, all of the items from the entire house are laid out and organized there. And it's like, how much time did you spend doing this? Oh my gosh, why?
Spent much longer than it would take to actually play the game, that's for sure.
Yeah. But before we keep going on with that, how did the ending work for you?
Oh yeah, so like you said, it was a nice, like, feel-good ending to it, because it was this insane roller coaster of, like, Sam is really happy, Sam is super depressed, oh no, Sam killed herself, to, oh, there's this happy ending. And then, I don't know, part of the realist in me started to think after that, like, well, Sam, aren't you, like, in the middle of your senior year of high school? You're just going to run away and go live somewhere? Like, I started to think about that a little bit, but I try not to dwell on that and try to just focus on the fact that, like, these two, they're going to be together. They're going to be happy. And it's very open-ended for how that's going to go.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be after the end of the school year, because that's why she's shipping out and stuff like that. I think
that makes sense. Because there are a couple of like brochures and audio logs about, like, Sam going to some, like, college prep class or, like, applying to college or something like that.
Yeah, she got into a creative writing program.
Right. So for now, she's kind of just like, fuck all that. I just want to be with Lonnie. Very teenage love story, but it was a very sweet ending.
For sure.
And I am so, like, had the story ended with finding Sam's dead body up there, I like stories that end on extreme down notes. There's a couple other games that are coming up on this show that end like that, and I'm very much here for that. But I was happy that was not how this story ended.
Same here.
So, yeah, that's how the ending worked for me. Overall, very happy with the roller coaster that the game puts you on, and the happy ending, and like you said, kind of the happy endings or the upward trends for all of the characters is good, and it adds to maybe not Sam running away, but, like, the realism of the characters and what happens to them is really in play here. Like, the parents, they're going through a rough time, so they're going to go to counseling and try to get through this together. That kind of stuff is very real, instead of just being like, oh, they're headed for a horrible divorce.
Yeah.
Without any sign that they're trying to work on it or something like that. So all of those things work.
He's drinking, she's having an affair. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you, because you started to get into it with the hidden cat diary and stuff, and you were telling me about some of the kind of interesting challenge runs for this game. So can you explain those for the listeners if they're not aware of some of these challenges you can do?
Yeah, absolutely. They're tied to some of the achievements. Like, there's an achievement for beating the game in less than 1 minute. And the way that works is the secret panel that you open to get the key to the attic, you can open those secret panels before you find the notes that mark them on your map.
Right.
So you can run into the house, run to the secret panel right next to the stairs, open it, grab the key, run up to the attic, go in, and hear the last journal. Boom, you're done. It took me like 3 or 4 tries to get it down, because you have to You have to open the cabinet outside, move the rubber duck or whatever it is, grab the key, get in the house, open the panel. If you're standing too close to the panel, it'll hit you and stop, and you have to close it and reopen it. And don't strafe. Never strafe, because when you strafe, you move slower than when you run straight and just turn. So you have to be careful about that. And you basically...
Gone home speedrunning strategies.
Yeah, it's funny. You can get caught on the stairs because the banisters curve outwards. And so as you're coming out of the secret room, if you run straight, you'll hit the banister and have to stop and go around it. So you have to like curve around to go up the stairs, like just little things, not that hard to do, kind of fun. There's another achievement for getting all 24 journal entries and beating the game in less than 10 minutes. And I haven't watched a video on how that works out. I didn't even get all 24 journal entries apparently because I don't have that achievement unlocked. So that means I missed some because there's achievement just for getting all the journal entries. Like, hey, you found everything.
Right.
I don't know if I did that the first time because the achievements didn't exist yet the first time I played it because it said I didn't have the achievement for beating the game. So I was like, oh, well, then these weren't there when I originally played it. And I know I spent more time exploring and reading stuff the first time I played, so I don't know if I got it all then. I know I didn't this time. But then there's those two kind of challenge achievements. The rest are pretty normal. There's only like a handful of achievements. It's only like 5 or 10. I don't remember how many. But yeah, there's those two challenge ones. Less than a minute or less than 10 minutes and getting all the entries.
Right.
Less than a minute one is pretty funny.
Yeah. Of all games to figure out how to speed run, this one's an odd one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's interesting that the developers, they're the ones who set the achievements. They're the ones who figured out or said hey, let's put an achievement in here to beat the game in less than 1 minute. This game that for the average player is all about careful exploration and slowly taking in all the details and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. So I just wanted to ask you to explain those. So I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else about the game? I have some other final thoughts now, like another summary that includes spoilers. But before we get into that, anything else that we missed about the story or anything like that?
I mean, there's a couple little things we didn't mention. They talk about a boy from back where they used to live and grow up that was a friend of Sam's.
That's right. Family friend or neighborhood friend.
Yeah, because that's what it is when you're a kid, especially, back in the day. It was your friends were the ones that lived close by, period. That's who they were. They weren't friends you picked. They were your neighbors.
Right.
And so she talks about how her parents want her to hang out with him. And, that's one of those hints of, like, hang out with boys, get a boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks he's weird and stuff. And you get the feeling like, oh, man, is, like, he being creepy and trying to hit on her? And then you find out he was just, awkward. And find out that she actually talks to him about her and Lonnie. And he's super cool and supportive. And actually is a good friend. He was just socially awkward. And it came across in a creepy way for a little bit there. And kind of put Sam off, and then she's like, "Oh, never mind. He's a good friend."
Yeah, and he was really supportive of her.
Exactly. So that's a nice thing too. There's a couple other characters people interact with. There's letters between the mom and her sister, I think, that you can find around.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Ooh, tell me about this guy you're working with. Let me hear more about him."
Mm-hmm. And the sister is really jealous of the house they're living in. She's like, "Oh, yeah. you won the lottery, lucky you," like that.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the correspondence between the dad and his boss, but then also between the dad and his friend who got him the job writing electronics reviews when his books weren't going good. Right. So there's at least like a couple people that each of the characters interact with besides the family interactions. And they add that extra layer that makes the characters more believable. It's worth digging around and reading all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you're right, and we mentioned that before the spoiler wall that the characters are interacting with people outside the family. This isn't, this isn't a sitcom or something like that where it's just the family. And
Mm-hmm.
those little interactions, you get like one letter from the guy recommending the like electronics review job. He's just like, "Hey man, like you're a writer, just put on a record, pour a glass of scotch, listen to the record, write about how it sounds. Easy work." And um, that letter, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to like put that in, and that character is not important for the story, but you do, it is good. You're right to get like a little connection outside of this house that you're in.
Exactly. It adds that connective tissue to just make it that much more believable. And this is how people got where they are. Like, why is an author writing electronics reviews? Well, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. You have any other final thoughts about the story now that we're like spoilery, kind of in summary?
I think it's similar to some of the stuff you'll be saying about like the hints at the supernatural work really well. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it could have easily been a like a haunted house horror game. It's all there. All of the material needed is there for it to have gone that direction, and then it doesn't, and it's just a really sweet feel good story. But because of the tension that adds, it makes the feel good even better because you have those two opposing feelings that
Right.
that gets in there. It makes the feel good feel even better.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. The like the fact that you have been on like the edge basically for most of the story, waiting for that ghost to finally show up or waiting to find, a dead body or something like that, and to have the story end on a nice happy ending. You're right. Your emotions have been down in the gutter at some point in this story. And so when you get that happy ending, it is kind of a relief and a good feeling. So, yeah. And yeah, like you said, for me too, those red herrings, they're excellent. And like we've mentioned lots of times, this isn't a long game. It's just a couple hours or even less if you're if I replay this game, I don't think it's going to take me 2 hours to play through, even if I do listen to the audio logs again. So
Mm-hmm.
those little side plots just give you something to chew on for 10 or 15 minutes. And then you continue with that human story. And that human story is really, really well done. And it has a lot of heart. You can see that there are like real people behind this story, real people that have had similar experiences probably behind this story, especially the teenage love story. And I believe Fulbright also did, let me check this. I believe Fulbright also did the game Tacoma.
I think that was one of
Yeah,
the other ones they
yeah.
did. I
Yeah,
haven't
they
played
did.
that one.
They did the game Tacoma, and Tacoma also deals with like LGBT relationships really, really well in a very, very real way, not caricatured or anything like that. So this company has like a pedigree of telling these stories in a way that's very, very good, I think.
I
Again,
need to play Tacoma then.
yeah, and Tacoma's even shorter than Gone Home. It's like an hour and a half.
I think I have it somewhere from like a free game at some point.
Yeah, it's also walking sim-ish with a very strong mechanic in there that takes it beyond what Gone Home is. Yeah, Tacoma is a good game. I definitely recommend that if you like the storytelling in here and kind of the way the characters treat each other and like the interactions between them and how real it feels. Tacoma also gets that, I think.
Okay, cool. Oh, and they're based out of Portland, Oregon. That's right in my
Yeah.
neck of the woods. I'm like hour and a half from there.
Well, there you go.
So
And Gone Home is set in Oregon too, right?
yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
love this area. So yeah, that's another one of the reasons I liked it. I was like, oh yeah, I've been in houses like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're
I know
working
this
on
place.
another game right now called Open Roads.
Cool. I have high hopes for that because after playing Gone Home and after playing Tacoma, I definitely trust the way that they tell stories.
For sure.
So let's wrap this up. Jake, thanks for joining me again. It's great to have you. And next time we will talk about something that's not a walking sim, I guess. I think.
Maybe I'll go play Tacoma and then we'll talk about that.
That's true. I would love to talk about Tacoma. I really love that game. So if you do play it, we can continue your typecasting as the walking sim dude.
And then hopefully Open Roads comes out and we'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and
there you go.
For some reason, that will be who I become, even though that is not the type of game I normally play.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get like Michael Serra or something, and people will only think of you as the walking sim guy.
I do more than that.
Yeah, I promise. I'm playing Baldur's Gate. All right. Well, anyway, thanks, man. Thanks for joining me again. It's good conversation as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been real fun doing these couple shows.
Cool. Glad you enjoyed it. And for everyone listening, thank you for sticking it out to the end. If you want to support the show, once again, the best thing you can do is to leave ratings and reviews and subscribe and tell people about it. That's very helpful. And also on social media at Tales from the Backlog. That's on Instagram and Twitter and probably Facebook too. I haven't set that up yet. But Tales from the Backlog, if you want to talk about Gone Home, if you want to talk about other games, if you want to suggest a game to cover on the podcast, or if you want to be a guest on a future show, let me know on those social media accounts. I will put links to those pages in the episode description. So once again, my name's been Dave Jackson. Jake, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.